Welcome to the DFS Build MLB edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We have a two-person show. Hooray! It's ready to rock. Did put out an NBA video earlier in the day, so you can go check it out. It should be at the end of this video. If not, you can hit up our channel, the DFS Build. By the way, also consider subscribing if you haven't already. And if we help you out today, please give this video a like. All of that helps us know that we're doing a good job, and it helps the channel in general. This video is sponsored by DFS Hero, so if you are on the search for an optimizer or you want to just try something different, give it a shot. 50% off discount, so you get a little extra savings to try something new. All right, Taylor, pretty big slate here. 12 games on the main slate. We're ignoring that 3-game turbo slate. It can fucking die as far as I'm concerned, because 12 games is a lot, and that's going to take up our attention. Right away, let's not waste any time. Arizona and Baltimore facing off. We got Brandon Pfaadt against Cole Irvin on the mound. Personally, not super interested in the pitching, but the stacks look lively and well here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I was about to sneeze, but I did not. Arizona, not super high priority. They look okay. They're just kind of pricey, as always. Irvin's not good, but this park does suppress right-handed power, so that's kind of his weak spot. Not dying to get there. Baltimore looks better, but I'm unfortunately not getting like any of them at all, which I assume is probably a pricing thing, or it's a Coors slate, so maybe I'm getting more of that. Lefties against Pfaadt look pretty good. Henderson, Santander, Rutschman, O'Hearn, they have a lot of lefties in the order, so I see the merit to getting there. I wish I was getting there more. Maybe I will, but yeah, no qualms with that. Not getting to the pitching on either side, though.
Yeah, worth noting, Baltimore has a pretty nice 4.25 projected run total. They're hanging out way, way down here in the bottom half as far as projected stack percentage goes. I'm with you, specifically left side of the plate. I mean, Brandon Pfaadt is giving up a 227 ISO, 402 WOBA, and his strikeout rate dips from 28% to the right side to 19% to the left. So certainly a spot where we can take advantage of the splits. But I would not leave out the power righties at all, like Mountcastle or Rutschman if they end up starting. I don't know if that lineup is out yet or not.
Sure is, Kevin.
Okay, so I like the Orioles. I'm not going to ignore the Diamondbacks necessarily here, but I definitely have a lean towards Baltimore here, and it's nice that they're not owned really at all. So
yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they aren't.
Swish around his shit in the background.
What?
I don't know if you can hear, but my cat is like.
Oh, I did hear a sweeping.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's sweeping in there. He's busy.
One of my cats doesn't bury at all, so he can enjoy that.
Yeah, he has to bury. I just cleaned it too, so he's being an asshole. He's making it seem like I didn't. Okay.
Mine just declines to bury and just leaves it in the open and smells
I would
horrible.
prefer that because it's really annoying when at 2 a.m. he goes and takes a shit.
You would not prefer that.
All right, here we go. Twins and Jays as the next game. UC Kikuchi with and Joe Ryan. I don't know if I butchered his name. I never know how to say it. And Joe Ryan on the other side. I feel like Joe Ryan is on every fucking slate and he always fails me. Jays are not really an advantageous spot for a pitcher, I don't think. They don't strike out a ton, and he never works out for me. I'm also not really eager to pick on him though, so I'm kind of leaving that side of it alone. And I generally like to use Twins lefties going up against right-handed pitchers. So I do like Kikuchi here quite a bit, but that's about all I like in this game. How about you?
I don't really like anything at all. Ryan's a bit expensive for this. I think there's a lot of cheaper stuff to get to. The Twins righties, Jeffers, Correa, Farmer, Margot, Miranda look okay, but some of them have pinch hit risk. I think Margot and Farmer in particular could turn into Kirilloff and Larnach later in the game, for example. Yeah. So there's risk in that. I'm not really getting too much of them. And then I'm pretty much not on Toronto at all, pitching or hitting.
Yeah, I think the other thing is with am I saying his name right, Kikuchi?
You sure are, Kevin.
Oh, okay. So, for rarity, so his price is a little bit steep at 9.6K for sure. And actually, if you look at the Twins projected lineup, their K rate against lefties is only 19% collectively. So I'll admit that doesn't look very appealing, but he grades out well, and he's been good this year. So I'm okay with him. He's just not like a top 3 pitcher for me on this slate. Overall, though, just going to ignore the bats in that game, I think. Nats and Red Sox at Fenway Park. We have Patrick Corbin night taking on Boston. Boston looks like a chalky stack. Let's look at their ownership right now. They're coming in as a second owned at 8.89% at DFS Hero. And when I'm running the systems, they are the 5-man stack that's popping up, which is a little surprising that Texas doesn't pop a little bit more. But it's cold there and the wind is blowing in. I know it's Patrick Corbin and it's a good hitter's park, but I'm kind of like okay with fading that chalk. How about you?
Yeah, it's also a shitty lineup. So
yeah.
Tyler O'Neill maybe, but he's 6'1". Like, you're getting no discount there. I think he's fine as a one-off, but it's hard to get excited about any other righties here. The lefties are Devin Durant, the perfect matchup there. So if they're going to be owned, I'm going to be pretty under the field on them. I do think Houck looks okay for them against Washington. Not a good strikeout matchup, but he's 9-1. He's not too expensive, and I think he's a pretty good pitcher overall. Don't mind that. Washington, I'm still getting to a little bit against him. Garcia and Abrams, Rosario from the left side, Ruiz, they're all cheap, and he has struggled with lefties, so I don't hate that. Just kind of a cheap. Well, I guess Abrams isn't cheap, I should say, but the rest of the stack is. Yeah, I don't hate Washington. I'd much rather get to them than Boston if Boston's chalk, but neither is my favorite side to target on this slate.
Yeah, I think it's just like, for me, it's just because Boston's chalky. Like, in a vacuum, Corbin gives up a 208 ISO to righties, and it's obviously not a good park for pitching. So if you want to just fire them up, I think it's okay. And there's a reason why they're chalk, but because of the ownership and because, like you said, their lineup is not that alluring, I'm okay just waiting and hoping for the best. By the way, 12-game slate. You do not need to eat chalk on this slate. Go find another advantageous spot, right?
There's just better chalk. Like, I don't think it's good chalk to begin with. Even if it was a 5-game slate and they were chalk, I'd be like, I'm going to have 0 of them tonight.
Well, the other thing is outside of Texas, like, if you're going to eat chalk, just go eat Rangers chalk because they look really good, I think.
Right, like there's better chalk to eat. This is just bad chalk, I think.
Right, and after those two teams, though, Boston and Texas, the chalk is only coming in at like 5% and super split. So, like, I don't even think it matters after you get fade Boston, do what you're going to do with Texas, and then after that, I don't think you need to worry about ownership that much.
This will be good when they score 18 runs, but
right, I know. Hey, baseball. I'm with you on Tanner, though. By the way, not a good K matchup whatsoever, but I mean, he seems fine. And there's nothing wrong with him. Not carrying that much ownership either at 14%. All right, next up, Braves and Mets. We got Charlie Morton and Jose Quintana facing off. Obviously, I want nothing to do with Jose going up against the Braves. And the Braves, they always look pretty good, but they obviously can mash the hell out of lefties. He's actually showing reverse splits on the year, and I guess just traditionally so. I don't think it matters. Just stack the Braves if you want to and if you can afford it. On the Mets side, not really eager to pick on Charlie Morton. But if you do, I would imagine it's coming from the left side of the plate, where he has 11% walk rate this year, and his strikeout rate dips by 6%. So I actually would lean Charlie here. And if you can afford the Braves, obviously, I'll always say play the Braves, especially if we look at their stack IQ. And they're they're pretty low here. So you can get the Braves at pretty low ownership on this slate. And Charlie Morton at 7.9K feels like a pretty reasonable price.
Yeah, he's my second highest owned player on the whole slate right now, which is not something I woke up expecting to see or wanting to see. But
he's cheap.
He's cheap, and the Mets only have 4 lefties against him in the lineup. So it is a pretty good spot, good park, good price, good pitcher overall. So I think I'm okay with that. Atlanta's kind of, they're one of the top stacks by default, but they are a bit further down the list than a few other spendy stacks like the Rangers, Dodgers, Phillies in particular. For me, I'm getting more of them. Obviously, Atlanta against Quintana can break the slate. Quintana's not overwhelming, but not a good hitter's park here. So we're not getting a discount either on the Braves.
No, that's true. All right, next up we got Phillies and Marlins. Trevor Rogers pitching up against the Phillies. Ranger Suarez facing the Marlins. Not exactly the best K matchup for Suarez, but he's been awesome this year, so I'm okay with him. The only problem is he is expensive. Trevor Rogers, I have no interest in, and I actually like the Phillies a lot. He is showing major reverse splits this year, 294 ISO, 387 WOBA. So, I mean, 10% walk rate. I mean, he has a major hard time against lefties this year, and they have a lot of them. So you can complete the stack with Castellanos and whoever else you want from the right side of the plate. But obviously, you have Schwarber, you have Bryce. I mean, yeah, Phillies look good, and I think you just
historically he's got a wide split, like a normal split, where righties just kill him.
Right.
His strikeout rate against lefties is 29% this year. Against righties, it's 14%. So Phillies righties are going to be the way to go, I think. Obviously, you can mix in Schwarber and Harper against anyone, but Castellanos, Real Muto, even Sosa is cheap if he's in the lineup. Rojas is cheap. Don't mind Merrifield, another cheap righty to consider. Bohm is pricey, but right side of the plate for him. This is one of my higher owned stacks, even in a bad park, but matchup's pretty good for them, I think. Suarez looks okay. He's 10-3, though. I just feel like at that price, you need more of a ceiling than he offers. He's not a big strikeout guy. You noted not a good strikeout matchup, so I don't really see the need to pay for him on this slate. And I'm certainly not playing the Marlins against him either.
Yeah, good point on Rogers. I guess I'm just looking at that 294 ISO this year for lefties, and that just is pretty mouthwatering. Obviously, small sample size, but I think the main point is across the board, you can stack the Phillies kind of any way you want and feel pretty good about it. All right, we got Guardians and White Sox. The corpse of Carlos Carrasco going out there to take on the White Sox. I mean, he's facing the White Sox, so you could argue that Carrasco's in play at 6.3K. I actually don't hate it, but I feel like lately I've been targeting pitchers against Chicago and has not gone well at all. So because he's kind of washed, I am pretty hesitant to take that dive. Garrett Crochet had a great start to the year, but he's kind of tumbled a bit. Guardians are not a good strikeout matchup, really. So I'm not super interested in him. I don't know. This is a stay away game for me, probably.
The thing about Crochet is like the numbers make it look like he's been really unlucky. Like his strikeout rate's like 32%. Low walks. He's allowed a lot of home runs, which is a concern in this park especially. But, he's a lefty against Cleveland. That's not a very high-powered lineup to begin with. Low strikeouts, like you said, but they do have a few more high strikeout bats like Laureano. Hedges strikes out a ton. Arias, Rocchio. For 8-1, I think Crochet is a pretty interesting buy low in a tournament. And I do like the White Sox, sadly, just because Carrasco is so bad now, and they're pretty cheap, and it is a good park for power. Not a core stack by any means, but the lineup's not as atrocious as it looked earlier in the year with Pham in there at the top. Jimenez, Vaughn, Sheets, Benintendi. It's an okay lineup, all things considered. Carrasco against lefties has been just abysmal. So, yeah, I can kind of get behind the White Sox. Even Nicky Lopez for 2-3, assuming it's leadoff, is viable tonight.
I know, 17% walk rate against lefties. Just really tough. 231 ISO. So he's getting slapped around just about every which way. So I hear you. I don't really want to play the White Sox, and I don't really want to play Carrasco. I'm probably just going to avoid this game entirely. But
I don't think there's any need to play Carrasco. Like, that just seems too cute for a 12-game slate.
Yeah. Well, there's no upside. Like, the downside is the White Sox bash him in, and you just feel stupid. And the upside is nothing. There's nothing there to like. All right, Brewers and Cardinals take face off. We got Tobias Myers. Is he pitching for the Brewers, or was that yesterday?
That was yesterday, Kevin.
Okay, Robert Gasser is making his is it Gasser or Gasser? He's making his debut.
Looks like Gasser to me.
It could be Gasser, though. You'd be surprised.
Let's go with Gasser, like Butto,
Yeah, you never know. Okay, so Lance Lynn against the Brewers. The strikeout rate is okay, but the Brewers do have some lefties, especially with Yelich back. So I would definitely favor the Brewers here. Lynn is coming in with no ownership and is a bit pricey for this spot, in my opinion. And then on the other side, you can always attack a pitcher making their debut, but I actually would lean the Gasser side, especially since he's only 5K. And, the Cardinals don't strike out a lot, but maybe they will here since they don't know this kid. What are you thinking?
Gasser is a pretty good prospect. He's their 5th prospect.
Yep.
Major strikeouts at the lower levels, also a lot of walks. So easy to see how it can go wrong, but given the price and his own ability, I think he's worth a shot, especially on a slate with a lot to pay up for. So Gasser, I'm getting to about 15% in my early builds just because he's cheap. St. Louis is stackable against him if he's going to be chalky. Goldschmidt, Fermin. Fermin's only 2K flat. If he gets a lead off, I think he's a good value. Carlson. It's just an okay lineup all around, but not really one you're too excited to stack. But I could see it on this slate. As for the Brewers, I'm not really getting there. I'm not really getting to Lynn either against them. Just a big slate, a lot to like. I don't think Lynn's a gas can, but obviously he does have home run issues. So if you do want to stack them, I'm not going to yell at you for it.
Please don't. Yeah, also his strikeout rate. We just know he can be attacked by lefties in general. So they have a few to throw at him. It's not like I'm racing to play Brewers on the slate, but I think I just would prefer Brewers over Lynn. Obviously, we got a pretty interesting one. Rangers visiting the Rockies. I don't really have a lot of interest in the Rockies going up against their former boy, John Gray. I don't really want to play a pitcher in Colorado either at Coors Field, but John Gray is viable tonight. He's a good price, I believe.
He's my highest owned player on the whole slate right now.
Yeah, 7.2K salary. He is going to garner some ownership. So if come on, if he's 20% right now owned, if he's actually going to be chalky, the Rocky stacks become appealing in a hurry. That said, I do like if we're just looking at logic here, John Gray looks like a really good play, and the Rockies don't. I hate that I used a pitcher against them yesterday, and of course they went off. So super annoying. Texas looks awesome. They have plenty of guys to take care of Austin Gomber for sure in this park. The only issue is they're not cheap, and they are very chalky right now.
Yeah, but there's enough cheap pitching with Morton and Gasser and Gray to pretty easily get to them. And they do have some cheap hitters, Grossman, Wenzel. Heim is under 5K. Durant, Leody Taveras is pretty cheap. So it's a good mix of pricey and cheap bats with Semien, Seager, and Garcia at the top. Not much to add there. Obviously, it's top stack on the slate. I don't think ownership's going to be overwhelming because there are so many games. So plan to be getting there a lot. I'm not normally a guy that plays Coors pitchers, but Gray should be pretty used to pitching in the park, you would think. And Colorado is just so horrible that it's hard to avoid him at that salary. If he's shown up, Colorado's viable just based on the ballpark, but likely not going to be getting there a ton personally tonight.
Yep, totally fair. All right, moving along here. We got the Angels hosting the Royals. We got Griffin Gas Canning. Actually, he's not a bad pitcher. He's just having a bad year. A little bit unlucky, perhaps, but it hasn't been good. It hasn't been good. Also on the other side, Alec Marsh, who, like, every time I target him, he just like spins a gem for no reason at all. But in theory, he's somebody we can take advantage of, and the Angels have pop even without Mike Trout. But they also whiff a decent amount. I don't want Alec Marsh. I think you can fire some Angel stacks if you want to. The wind is blowing out in this game. It looks like a good spot for hitting. And I mean, Canning's having a real tough time against lefties. 16% K rate, 10% walk rate, 221 ISO. The Royals look good here for sure, and the Angels are okay. I don't really want the pitching in this game though.
Yeah, I'm getting into the Royals a lot. Canning has a reverse split historically, so I'm not really concerned about platoons either way. The whole team's vibe. Witt, Pasquantino, Perez, the headliners, Garcia leading off. You can save with Melendez, Isbell, and Massey. It's just kind of a good value team overall. Not getting to Marsh, not getting to Canning, not getting to the Angels tonight. Angels lineup is just a fucking nightmare right now. So I know that they're cheap, but look at the names in that order. It's just abysmal. I want no part of that.
Yeah, and there's no leverage to be had here in this 12-game slate. So like I said, we can pick our spots. I think like Alec Marsh can definitely get his ass kicked here, but you don't need to do that. All right, Dodgers and Padres, Tyler Glasnow and Michael King facing off. Which one's better? So Glasnow is like crazy pricey at 10.9K, and he's not going to be that owned because of that, but he is still coming at 18%, so it's not nothing. like you said, there is enough value that you could honestly stack. Well, actually, I was looking at it earlier. It's a little bit tough to stack Rangers and pay for Glass now, but with Gasser in there, it's actually possible. Either way, you probably want to pick a side, either stack Rangers or play Glass now tonight. But he looks great. Let's see here. I missed it. Padres are not striking out a ton, so that's not great, though. So do I want to pay a premium for him on this slate with that matchup? Nope, not really. And on the other side, do I want to play pitcher against the Dodgers? No. Oh, my God, Michael King. 13% walk rate, 18% K rate, 194 ISO against lefties. Hello, Dodgers. So, yeah, I love the Dodgers. I believe they're floating under the radar here a little bit. Fifth own stack. And like I said, if you're not the top 2 stacks on this slate, you're not going to – it doesn't matter. So what are you thinking here?
Right. Like if it's not Texas, you can pretty much stack anyone and be okay with the ownership. Obviously,
Right.
LA is included in that group. Lefties get priority. They're also the more expensive ones, but Lux and Outman are cheap. If they get in there, Pajes is reasonably priced as a righty. Not getting a ton of Glass now. I just think on this slate, you can pay down. And like you said, it's not a good strikeout spot. He's pricey. He's fine. He has obviously slate breaking upside. He can dominate anybody, but tonight is not really a Glass now night for me.
It's not the night. All right. Yeah, I'm with you. I really like the Dodgers. If this is where the ownership is going to be, they're very, very appealing. Because, I mean, a lot of people are paying for Texas. If you just pivot with the same price range and go with an offense perfectly capable of doing the same damage, but way less owned, that makes a lot of sense to me. All right, Oakland and Seattle. We got Paul Blackburn. He sounds like a fucking pirate name. And Brian Wu is making his 2024 debut.
Woo.
Any word on if he's going to be limited at all? I know he pitched 11 innings and he was really good in his practice work up until now, but do we know?
I think he threw like 60-something pitches in his last rehab start, like 66 or something. So 80 to 85 is probably your likely cap.
Okay, so that's a little concerning to me just because I don't know. I mean, maybe he comes in a little bit rusty or not fully ready, and he is like super chalky. And we don't necessarily like he's a good price, and it's a pretty good K matchup. But the Athletics actually do have some power, and if he's going to be chalky and making his first game debut of the year, I don't know, man. I don't really feel that great about it. How about you?
I have a lot of them right now. I'm just confused about the projection that I see. It looks a little high for his potential pitch count. Obviously, the spot's really good at home against Oakland. Just an awful lineup with plenty of strikeouts. 8K is not egregious, so I'm okay with it. I'm not going to be like disappointed if I get to him a little bit, but I'm interested to see where the ownership actually does land because people are going to have the same concerns about his pitch count, I think. Kind of hard to tell. Blackburn, I think, is okay just because Seattle strikes out so much.
Yeah.
The only hitter in the lineup with a subpar strike or above average strikeout rate on the hitter side is Rojas. Everyone else just striking out like 30% of the time. So yeah. Blackburn's okay, even though he's not historically a pretty good strikeout pitcher. Not really getting into the bats on either side. It's just not a good park, not a good spot for either team.
Yeah, good note on Blackburn. I think at 7.5, he's a guy we can keep in our player pool and kind of pivot or maybe just drop down from Wu and use a guy who's a little bit less owned. I will note that at least this year he's showing reverse splits, 203 ISO, 362 WOBA, 14% K rate. Not great against the right side of the plate, and the Mariners have like 6 righties to throw at him, and they do have power. So obviously a really good strikeout matchup, but like you said, he's not exactly an elite K guy anyways. So this matchup could make him one for today, but I don't know. I don't know if I really want Blackburn, even though it's a good matchup. I think last game of the night here, Oracle Park, we got Giants hosting the Reds. Probably something we can just ignore, but we do have Andrew Abbott, who's a bit interesting at his price point here, 6.7K, facing a Giants lineup where their righties do strike out 29% of the time against lefties. God, is that right? Yuck. And then Logan Webb, I think he's viable for sure. They have a 25% K rate overall. So because this park suppresses power, I think I'd have interest in Webb at 8.5K. I like Abbott more, though, because he has K upside, and he's really cheap. So I'd looked at the pitch for this game. Both are viable, but I prefer Abbott. How about you?
Both are viable. I like them both a lot. The pricing obviously is in Abbott's favor, but Webb's not too expensive either. Pretty good strikeout spot. He hasn't been a good strikeout pitcher, but I think that's kind of due to regress in the good way moving forward. So not too concerned about that. As for offense, this just looks like a full fade on both sides.
Yep, I agree. Okay, real quick before we wrap things up here, let's look at the chalky pitchers. Actually, as I'm talking, I'm going to refresh this real quick just so we can get a bump here. Because as you were saying, with Woo specifically, maybe that ownership changes. And certainly it'll be interesting to see what it looks like live. But okay, so here we go. Woo's still sticking at 22% after updating. To be fair, it's only 244 Central, so that could change. But as far as the chalky arms here, maybe like the top 10 or 12 here, which ones are you really confident in building around tonight? And which chalky arm would you be most likely to be underweight on or fading completely?
I think Suarez and Glasnow look like the fades, or they're too pricey. I don't see the need to go all the way up there, especially Suarez. Not a good strikeout guy historically. As for building around Gray and Morton, probably the ones to which I'll have the most exposure. No qualms with Gray, Crochet, Webb. And we mentioned Abbott not showing up there, but I think he's pretty interesting too.
Yeah, well, I didn't have it under the pitcher column, so yeah, here he is now. But yeah, good point. For me, it starts with Woo. He's the chalkiest arm, and he might be on a pitch count, and it's his first game of the season. So I don't like any of that. I think those are some red flags. So it's a 12-game slate. I mean, unless he goes and gets 40 fantasy points, I can make up for that and then hopefully gain an instant edge on the field. Pretty much with you on everything else. Like you can play Tyler Glasnow, and even though the K matchup sucks and he's super pricey, he can go get 40 points and make us look stupid. So you can play him, but I'm with you. I don't like the pricing on him or Suarez at all. It's just, I mean, Glasnow 16% K rate against the Padres. That feels not good. So that's where I'm at. And right before we end here, let's look at stack percentage one more time. I did update it. Texas is still coming in at 10%. That is a lot, but not the highest we've seen. We've seen it at 14, 15%. So considering it's 12 games, like you said, I think you can stack the Rangers and easily get different elsewhere and not worry about that much. I am team fade Boston tonight. And then after that, I think, like you said, you can do kind of whatever you want. So having said that, what other stacks stand out the most for you tonight?
The Phillies, the Dodgers, the Royals, I like quite a bit. Not into Boston, not into St. Louis, not into the Angels, not into Seattle. I think the ownership's kind of interesting. It probably doesn't matter, like you said, beyond Texas, but, chalky Angels is something to, even relatively chalky Angels is something to avoid.
Yeah, I agree. Cardinals, Mariners, Angels, for sure. I'd be crossing off Boston. I'm with you on Philly. I'm with you on the Dodgers and the Royals for sure. If we go down here to just unowned stacks, nobody's really standing out here until we get to maybe Arizona. And you got to go up a ways more for Baltimore. And you liked Chicago a little bit. I don't know, man. But yeah, that's really it. So I don't see any reason to go punting for these low-owned stacks tonight. I would keep it up in the top half of the options. Like I think the ownership percentage you see at DFS Hero, that is about right where you should be from Texas going down to Atlanta. All right, so that does it for us. Hopefully that helps you and helps you process and gets you pointed to one good single entry lineup or helps you figure out how you're going to do your lineups as a whole. If it did help you, please give this video a like and also consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching and good luck tonight.